stress on the fact that because you're moving literally towards your closer end, and some of you have already qualified for class 12, considering some of you come from boarding schools. My sincere request is you take this equally sincerely, because a lot of you might want to be studying, looking at studying at certain universities that require a lot more work than the others, and either way you'll have entrances to give. So how we'll break down the session, I will start with setting context and talking about education abroad. Anisha can keep contributing to that. And of course, then we'll cover Indian education. Any questions you have, we can take them up at the end. Please ensure you only mention questions. Anything not required to be written should not be. I think that's all I wanted to specify. Now, quickly to get into this, Ritik, I hope this is being recorded, right?
Yes, it is.
Wonderful, great. Okay, so just to begin with, when we are looking at applying to colleges, because that's where we're sitting at right now, you have to understand three very simple things. Any and every college in the world has to just understand that why are you applying to that particular university, but that always has to start with what course are you applying for. So if I'm sitting in class 12th right now and I have no clarity on why am I doing a particular course, that becomes a major problem, because let's say I want to go and study in the UK and I'm looking at the best universities, but I'm not too sure what course to work. Believe you me, we have got so many admissions already, almost over a 40 or 50 offer letters from the UK. And it's very strange to see a lot of students are still contemplating, oh, where do I actually go now? Because that research was even though done, but they were not very certain of which course to take. So you have to do this research right away. In case you have not done class 12, this is for you in particular. If you're not giving your Mindler assessments, please go and give that. That will be a good start. If you're still not sure, go come back to the team, let your schools know, let us know. We are happy to take sessions for you. Because first and foremost, you have to figure out what you need to study. If you have no clarity on that, it'll be very, very difficult for you to figure out the right kind of colleges. It becomes a very difficult process. So that's first. Second, universities want to understand, most of them, that what have you done towards the course in particular. Now, I can't wake up today and say that, oh, I want to be an engineer, but have you been working towards exploring what engineering is about? Have you worked towards the domain? If you have no clarity, it becomes all the more difficult for a university to try and trust you. Now, if I'm a university sitting in any part of the world, even the good private universities in India, it's very, very difficult for them to know that how sincere and careful are you about that domain. Do you even know what you're getting into? That is why domains like medicine, law, architecture, which are long-term commitments, you need to carefully think this through. You can't be stuck in a course and feel, oh, I have to drop out and move out, right? Sometimes you wouldn't, but at least try and do your particular research before you get. The last bit is ask yourself, how do I see myself using this degree? If you're not certain about the answer, at least have some vision. Now, nobody will hold you accountable after you graduate that you said that I want to do this particular job, or I want to work in this particular industry. My plans have changed. Plans are bound to change. That's fine. But do you have a plan? That's the question. To give you an overall idea, in the first place, that how do we go about applying to universities abroad? One word you have to understand very carefully is storytelling. When you apply to universities, you are just telling a very genuinely crafted personal story. I, I think I've broken down these three words. It's genuine. That means you're not talking about anybody else's story. It's very crisp, very concise, giving a good account of who you are, what you want to do, and what you've done so far. That's all. It has to be genuine, very skilled, very straightforward. You can't make up things. And I'm sorry, a chat GPT can only help. It cannot write your story, right? And the second you are able to narrate and put across the story with all the reasons I've mentioned, it'll be very, very easy to complete a college application, right? Now, let me give you a quick worldview. And that is the reason, Anisha, and I didn't want to keep a presentation because we're very happy to address questions and walk you through it. Anisha, please feel free to jump in wherever you would like to, right? Let me start with the further west. US will always be a popular destination. So any and every country you apply to, the first and foremost thing, students, you have to understand is your academics is the utmost priority. You cannot simply say that, oh, my marks were not the best. Marks are a given criteria. Now, I understand if I'm in class 12th, I have what I have. I can't change anything. But if you know your 9th, 10th, 11th marks, you already know the kind of university you can aim at, because technically your 12th is not done. So your major chunk of application decisions are also going to be coming based on a 9 to 11th grades. 12th, if your school has given you a predicted score because you have done pre-boards, you have done midterm exams, make sure your school is in sync with what you want to do. It shouldn't be that you are wondering, I'll get a particular score, and the school ends up sending a different score altogether. We've had a couple of cases this year, so we are literally warning you. It's not appreciated, also brings a bad name to the student and the school, right? You have to be very careful. So they will look at your academic scores from 9 to 12. Second bit is, if I'm applying to the US, there is a portal that you use called the Common Application. Now, this is used for 90% of schools in the US. Certain universities like University of California, which is already done with applications. So You can't really apply now if you're in 12th. 11th, for your reference, that's or for all the schools coming under the University of California umbrella. A couple of other schools like MIT, etc., have their own applications, so you have to be mindful. But Common App is the main platform. Now, Common App is a very rigorous platform. I can't walk you through that right now, but go through that. They have given instruction videos. If you're looking at applying for regular admissions in January, that's 1st to 15 January, or applying to early decision 2, um, in case you don't know, early decisions are just a way for you to put across to your university that I am very certain about the school and I'm committing to it. So if I get in, I will 100% come. I can't back out. Early decision first cycle was out by 15th December. We have seen results. A lot of students have gotten offers. Now, if you're still waiting and wondering, this is the time for you. You have less than 15 odd days. And if you're not started, you literally have to start today. That's all I can say. And if you need support, we're very happy. You have to just drop a mail to the team and we'll get back to you ASAP, right? For class 11s, please remember the US admissions for you will open around 1st August next year. That being said, you don't have to wait and wonder, what do I start with? You still have to figure out colleges and courses. They are still right in front of you. You can also start working on your application because most of the information, if not all, stays the same. So if you are waiting that I'll start in 12th, no, you don't have to. You can start right away. Other components of applications, I don't want to be repetitive, so I'm making it clear once and for all. Every single student applying from India, right? I'll give you exceptions, has to give IELTS. And when you give IELTS, you have to give IELTS academic. Don't make the mistake of sitting for an IELTS general paper and waste your time, right? I'm just typing the chat box as well, so you know this too. So you have to give IELTS academic exam. There you go. And it's not something that doesn't really require coaching. It's English after all, and you know the language very well. In case you need training, just get the right material and you can practice very simply. Other than this, what is also compulsory for universities is to understand that anybody can recommend you. I'm covering the important elements first, which are non-negotiable. In US universities, you need up to 2 or 3 LORs. Now, who will give you recommendations is a very different thing. Also, please remember, I know a lot of your schools would go on breaks now. So in case you haven't, please get in touch with the school officials, principals, coordinators, however the hierarchy works, and counselors, and tell them I need this and make sure it's done. I really don't like the fact when students say that, oh, school did not do it. It's your career, it's your accountability. You have to run behind them, get your parents to write to the schools, and most of the schools I know are very, very supportive. You've done it the right way, right? So that's one thing. Now, with US, one thing that you have to keep in mind is they are not only going to be happy with your academic scores, they will also go ahead and care about your overall profile. Now, what all goes in my overall profile? My co-curricular activities, anything that complements my education. For example, if I'm really interested in economics, am I writing a research paper? Have I made a project? Have I started a personal initiative? Along with this, am I participating in debates, MUNs, my extracurriculars, sports, any leadership activities, community work? Now, all of this combined together is a way for you to tell a university that I am not somebody sitting idle. I'm studying, I'm doing work beyond my classroom, I'm also giving back to the community. I also have these skill sets. Every activity you have, it's not useless at all. And in case you're wondering how to utilize them, that is where university essays come along. Majority of them, if not all, universities in the US will have multiple essays. The essay topics can be very wide. It can be very specific. It can be very vague as well. Certain university essays can make you feel, oh, why am I even applying to this university? Because they're so complicated and so complex. But please understand, the universities are trying to filter out the candidates who will fit right in the classroom. If you're not somebody who thinks in the same particular way or doesn't have that particular bent of mind, maybe that's not the right room for you. So that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing for you to realize, oh, this is not the place for me, right? Um, Another factor, can you quickly confirm class 12s? How many are applying to the US, and the ones applying to the US, have you given the SATs so far? Okay, wonderful. Anybody else? I see one name. Parnita has. It's for other reference, particularly in class 11s, let's say you're looking at giving the SATs, the standardized tests. In case you are not really good at test taking or not very sure if you should, the first request I have for you is go and double check which universities are mandatorily requiring SAT scores or ACT scores. Because a lot of schools now, this year there were around 1800 plus schools that went test optional. Test optional basically means you can submit or you cannot, or you might not want to submit. That's completely fine. But 11s, I'll sincerely encourage, if you can and you can appear for it, why not? You have the time, right? And if you can appear for it, sure. But you already have given a mock and you know that I am able to do everything, but this, let's not waste our time. I rather figure out another activity because it will take a lot of commitment. SATs and ACTs can be used interchangeably. A lot of universities will accept both, but still double check if the certain school that prefers SAT. If it says I prefer SAT, rather give that. Another way of figuring it out is just go and give a mock for both and see which one you can do better at, because that's how you'll know, right? And Isha, anything you want to add for US? Anything?
Yeah, I think that's a already detailed explanation about the US application process. However, remember students that your applications in the US are reviewed, or let's say they're assessed holistically. That means that they will look at every possible thing that you've participated in or done at school or outside school, right? Now, a lot of you are asking how can you join community, or how can you possibly do any community or volunteering service. Students always remember that whether you're participating in any, or let's say whether you're a part of any NGO or any club, it has to be for a reason. It does not have to be very vague. It does not have to be something that you're just doing for the sake of adding things in your application, but it always has a purpose, right? So always remember that you're solving a particular problem that you feel is there around you, and you're going and contributing towards it, right? Universities want to understand how is it that you are contributing to the society with the kind of education or with the kind of resources that you have around you, right? So always remember, whether you're participating in MUNs, whether you're doing any, whether you're in the student council, school council, whether you are writing a research paper, or doing a personal project, all of these things will count in your application. Now, whether it's the US or any other country, now a lot of us will feel that only for the US you will need all of these things. Primarily, yes, but if not, then of course other things can work out. However, in other universities or other countries as well, all these things are going to help you ultimately. So please do not only have a checklist that, okay, I need to do 10 certain things and I can get it over with. No, all of those 10 things that you're doing have to have a purpose, right? Why are you doing it? What is the purpose behind it? How are you doing it? And how are you solving a particular problem? So always question yourself first before putting yourself in that particular activity. Like, why are you doing it? For who are you doing it? And how are you going to do it, right? So please remember that there always has to be a purpose behind it. Now, let's say your intended major at the university is computer science, right? Um, Now, what all certain activities can you possibly do or participate in if you want to do a major in computer science? uh, Please feel free to write it in the chat box and we can take it up from here. But it could possibly be a research paper. It could be, building apps. It could be you learning languages. It could be you probably going and teaching basic computer skills to those who are not so privileged, right? Who are underprivileged. Can you possibly go and teach your younger siblings, or let's say your peers in school or your juniors at school, right? Can you hold workshops? Can you organize workshops, right? So all of these things have to be in sync with your intended major. They cannot be very random, and you can go and be like, oh, I just did an MUN and I'm good to go with my applications. No. How is it helping you with your major? What have you done towards showing or displaying your interest, right? They want to understand that. Yeah. Anything else, Abhishek, that you would like
No,
to
no, I
add
think
for this?
that's a very important point you explained. I've answered a couple of questions as well. Now, I think when Anisha was talking, she's covered a couple of questions you were asking about projects, etc. But please remember one thing, right? When you are reaching out to people, it's very, very simple to just be intentional. So let's say you want to work with somebody, you want to start a project, just simply reach out to a person. You find them on LinkedIn, that's a great platform, or email them if you have that ID, and simply tell them that, oh, this is what I can do for you. MUNs are very simple things. You can reach out to so many schools. You can organize one for that matter, or I would say start with. Manasi, most, I would say for the major part, they're very, very similar, right? The components are broken down in a certain way, but in terms of preparation, etc., I would say it's 90% the same thing. What I encourage you to do is go and give a mock for both to realize which one you're more comfortable with. That's how you actually decide. Moving on from the US, Canada is still a popular country. I know a lot of things went down this year. You might be worried about it. So please understand that if you are going to the right set of universities, it still works well. So if you're applying to University of British Columbia, Toronto, Waterloo, York, McGill, Alberta, these are still very good schools. You're still very secure. But I will simply say if you're looking at Canada, just do your research well. Don't try uh, and randomly apply to colleges for the sake of it. It's very, very convenient to get a college offer letter, just being honest. But that college offer letter should have a global reputation. It should matter where you go and where you study, because that will define the major part of your initial working years, at least if not all. Now, how do you go about Canada? I think major parts of it are covered in the US application process as well, but just highlighting the best ones or major parts. You are looking at 10th to 12th in terms of academics. You're looking at giving IELTS academic as well. That's a non-negotiable. You will be required up to 2 to 3 LORs. Um, Major requirements are these. A few universities like British Columbia, Toronto, etc., will have their essays as well, which are purely about what is important to you and why you're looking at this major in particular. Mention a few activities you've done. For Canada, I think 5 major activities in Isha works well, not more than that. But if you have them at a higher level, your chances of getting a scholarship increases. We have a student right now who's barely done a couple of activities and gotten around $60,000-$70,000 scholarships just by applying, nothing else. And his marks were good, everything worked well. So Canada is not a very strict country. Of course, you have to remember certain things, like certain competitive programs like economics and computer science are very difficult to get in certain schools. So make sure you do the research. You have worked. Uh, what Anisha said, if you have no idea why you're doing an activity, rather figure out the reason behind it. Um, a couple of things to keep in mind in Canada: colleges and universities are two different things. Colleges give you diplomas, universities give you degrees. Be very practical and mindful. Diplomas can be cheaper initially, but in terms of careers, companies don't really accept all of them. So you have to understand that. Please go and check that if this I do this diploma, will I be able to land a job easily, or will it be possible? It shouldn't happen that you do a diploma, get a PR, but still not able to land the right kind of job. So be practical about all of this. Other bit is US and Canada both, you can't be applying to medicine and law in particular. It'll take you have to complete an undergrad degree before you apply to US and Canada for your law school and medical school. If anybody's interested, and we are more than happy to chat with you. Anisha, do you want to add on that for Canada? Anything else?
No, Canada primarily, I think students, your academic scores matter a lot. Apart from that, your extracurriculars, if at all you have any, you can always mention that. Also remember that all the top universities that you might be aspiring for, which is, let's say, U of T, UBC, McGill, all of these universities would certainly require you to have good academic grades. Because also remember that the pool of applicants is going to be really strong and highly competitive. So you always have to have good academic scores. Apart from that, whatever extracurriculars or co-curriculars you have that will enhance your application, then I think it's a good idea. Apart from that, there are certain times that you will automatically be considered for scholarships. But if not, then there are certain scholarship essays that you would be required to write. But that only depends once you get your offer letter. So Canada process is very simple. There are two portals that students are usually required to register and apply from, OUAC and EduPlanner BC. So OUAC is the portal where you can apply to universities in the Ontario province, and the universities in the British Columbia province you will use EduPlanner BC. So these are the two portals that are mainly used for applications to any Canadian universities. And for the others which are not there on these two portals, they have direct applications um, through the website.
Great. Perfect. So Canada, again, please remember you have scholarship as well. So great country to consider, but make sure you apply to the right kind of colleges. Very, very crucial. Moving on to the UK, which is another popular destination. Now, UK is rather a much easier application process, but if done right, it can do wonders for you. So literally on the fingertips, what all do you require? You need your 10th marks, 12th predicted scores in particular. Now, this is very tricky. For US and Canada in particular, if let's say you apply to college and you get a predicted score 90% and you get up 88 or 89, universities still might consider you. There's a good chance. In UK, 99% of universities, if you give them a 90, you better get a 90 or higher. If it's 89, there's a guarantee they will cancel your offer letter. So don't tell your school to give a score that's not going to be valid for you. Very, very important, right? So you're looking at 10th, you're looking at 12th predicted scores. You're looking at IELTS academic again. You require only one letter of recommendation and one personal statement. That's all that you require for applying to the US. There you go. It becomes all the more simple for you. Along with this, one major category or major criteria, you can apply to only maximum 5 schools in the UK. Now, this is very tricky. Let's say I wanted to apply to multiple schools, but I really wasn't able to shortlist. But UK has a very clear logic that you can't apply to more than 5 schools. Now, how do you decide on them? This is how we would break it down. Always apply to one or two ambitious schools, two realistic schools you know you might get, and one backup. By backup, we don't recommend you apply to schools you would never get into, but it's a safety school where you know based on your marks and requirements, you should be able to make it. That's the criteria. Now, we had mentioned you can't apply to medicine law in the US after 12 directly. In UK, just like India, you can very simply apply to would you want me to remove you from the chat? This is a last warning for you. I'm being very polite, but I have to call you out, right? Um, it's not appreciated, and I know the school you're from, just in case you were wondering. Um, so the idea is when we are looking at UK, we can apply to medicine and law directly in case you are not too sure how to go about it. And if by the way you're in 12th, you already missed that because you've missed out on the examinations. For class 11s, however, if you're looking at applying to law and medicine, get in touch with the team early so we can break it down for you. It's a very complicated process, if I can say, for the lack of a better word, but it's very rewarding if you do it right because you're some of the best schools there. Other bit to remember, a lot of US universities, let's say applying to Oxford, Cambridge, they have early admission, as in you have to apply 15th October. Otherwise, the deadline is the last Sunday of January. So other people still have time, but for Oxford, Cambridge, medicine, etc., you missed the deadline. Class 12s who are not very, very sure. Okay, so Anisha, can we remove Vansh? Wonderful. I think, and we also need to report to his school. Let's make it a point, Ritik. Other bit is that when we are looking at applying to certain programs, they might have particular specific requirements. Go study on the website. UK websites are very creative to deal with and work on, because unless you're very, very certain about a program, don't put this in your application category. The challenge now is for UK, I said only one personal statement. If you're not very certain about the course you're applying for and what you're doing, you won't be able to compile it. It's a very interesting process, but very straightforward. Just do it right. And I think most of you should be able to land offers with the right kind of grades, right? Except the 4 or 5 schools at the top, like the likes of LSE, UCL, KCL, Imperial, etc. Other universities pay most attention to your marks more than anything, right? This you can specify a question. We'll be happy to take care of this at the end, and we'll explain Areep's question too. Anisha, anything I missed out for the UK?
No, I think we've covered everything for UK. However, UK always remember students that you can only and only apply to 5 universities, like Abhishek has already mentioned. So please create your list in terms of your dream colleges, maybe only one or two at max, not more than that. And then, of course, have some safety and backup options where you know you will be able to get in. Also, always apply to those universities that you know your predicted grades will match with, right? So let's say if the universities already have mentioned on their website that 90% is something that they would minimum require, then please remember that if your predicteds are somewhere in order, or let's say they're aligning with 90%, only then apply to those universities, because UK will always give you a conditional offer letter, right? So any university that you apply to will give you a conditional offer letter, which means that they will attach a condition to it, that you need to have minimum that score, and only then you will be finally getting an unconditional offer letter, right? So please remember that these are a few things that you need to keep in mind before you apply to the universities abroad or anywhere, right? Yeah.
Wonderful. A lot of you asking about dedicated application processes. You are free to reach out to the teams. You're more than happy to help you with that. Um, mm, okay, so Drishti, we need to understand a lot of factors for this, right? And it's a good question. That's why I'm taking this up right away. We don't know your career goals. We don't know what is your profile like. So unless we understand that, we can't really recommend, right? If you say you want to be an investment banker and you have a brilliant profile for finance, going to a UK will be a great option, or going to a Netherlands will be a great option. But I need to understand every single aspect to be even making a recommendation. Otherwise, it'll be a very random thing, right? Now, moving on from the UK, moving to other countries which are right next to it, the likes of Ireland. Now, Ireland is a great country. Why? Because they're very flexible, very liberal, and very pro-Indians. They have a rather easier visa and immigration policies for Indian students and even for work visa as well. So if you're looking at the UK, I would say Ireland can be a great backup. They have universities like Trinity College Dublin, University College Dublin, to name the best ones. Process, the exact replica of UK. The only difference is you apply directly to colleges, no common platform like UCAS. So you're not limited. You can apply to most schools as well. Again, IELTS score 10th, 12th predicted, your one personal statement for the university. The advantage is you are writing a dedicated SOP here. You're telling the university that why I'm interested in applying for the particular school instead of randomly applying um, to other schools as well, and making a common SOP. So that's a good thing. Also, please remember, if you're looking at careers in banking, consulting, technology, even for music, etc., as well, Ireland is a beautiful country. Dublin is a cultural hub now, so great opportunities. A little more affordable than the UK, so that if that helps a lot, right? To cover Europe, you have Netherlands, which is a popular destination. So some of the universities that I can name: University of Amsterdam, Erasmus Rotterdam. We have multiple offers coming in already. There's Tilburg, there's Delft. All the schools have their own specialization, so you can do that research. And if you have questions, we're happy to address. Application process. You have to make an account on a platform called a StudyLink, right? After you register here, you can add your courses for different universities as well. And the process is not long enough. Most schools will only require 10 score, 12 predicted scores, or even 11 scores, IELTS score. That's literally done. And a resume. Now, Netherlands, 101% requires a resume for most cases. Two things to remember. You have to understand that courses you apply for are in English, not Dutch. A lot of universities offer courses in both English and Dutch together, but you can only apply for English if you have not studied Dutch so far. Second, a lot of universities in Netherlands are very particularly biased towards maths, irrespective of what you want to study, be it psychology, business, anything at all. They will require maths as a requirement. If you don't have maths, they might ask you to give a particular test. So make sure you're not missing out on those things. And if you are not sure, double check the information on the website or reach out to the team. We are happy to discuss this over a session. Other countries in Europe are very interesting. So, for example, if you're looking at France, they have some of the best business schools. I can name a few: ESSEC, KEJ, EDHEC in particular. Great programs. One request: France is a country is very pro people learning the language. So if you're not sure about French or not studied it, might as well start. If you're in 11th for 12th, you can apply for English programs, but be mentally prepared to study the language at the earliest. Because if you don't know the language, it'll be difficult for you to navigate or intern or work, because people prefer French speakers for obvious reasons. They have great programs for policy. There's a school called Sciences Po, a very difficult school to crack, but the best one in the world for policy, economics, international relations, diplomacy. If you are aiming to work with the UN, this is the kind of school you need to get into. Dina, no, not really. So that's what a lot of people say. They are good schools. Like you have a John Hopkins, which or a Duke, which are brilliant schools as well. So when we mean best, the definition can be very, very subjective, right? So I was talking about France. So you can look at these schools. The requirements are pretty straightforward, just like Ireland and Netherlands as well. Certain universities might want you to study a basic level of French before you come, even if the course is in English. There's no particular exam as such you have to give. Um, is France, you have schools like EPFL, etc., but I don't think the programs are available in English. So you have to double check. France is a good country, but still not the best one for CS and AI, Advika. I think, Pooja, that question goes without saying. MIT is the best school there is for computer science in the world. Other countries in Europe, Germany, Italy, again, very popular. Italy has a very similar criteria like France. They have courses in English, but most universities will require you to have language to help you. But if you want to apply to school like Bocconi, very pro students coming in English, studying, brilliant program, one of the best business schools there is in the world. Design, Italy is a popular country. You have Politecnico, Domus, for fashion, luxury, number of programs, very interesting courses as well, and great opportunity considering the careers. We'll come to Australia, Ramneet. We'll cover that. I want to quickly cover Germany because we have a lot of hearsay about it. Germany, if you're applying to, remember the four things I'm going to tell you next. One, Germany has 13 year of education criteria for high school. You have 12. So the first and foremost thing you can do is either go to university in India, do a 1 year degree, complete that and apply to Germany. So that's the first point. Second point is if you don't want to do that, you apply to Germany directly having a B2 level of German qualification. And certain universities considering your profile might give you direct admit. Third bit is something called Student College. This is like a foundation here. I hope I spelled it right. I get it wrong very often. So what you need to know about this is universities say you apply for a foundation year called the Student College. You get in, come and study, clear an exam. After the exam, if you're qualified, you can apply to universities directly. The catch here is 90% of student colleagues are in German. So you need to have German B2 level proficiency if to apply for these as well. In case you don't have that, you can very simply look at the programs which are in English. Now there are 4 or 5 major universities like FH Aachen to name that is offering a student college in English. Please remember, if you complete that, certain universities might not consider that degree because they have a particular criteria. So remember and be mindful of that. Anisha, you want to add anything about Europe?
No, I think we've covered almost everything for Europe. I think we can move to Germany. I think a lot of students have questions.
Yeah,
Uh,
that
yeah,
was covering Germany. So, Drishi, yes, certain schools will accept that, but remember the fully funded scholarships will only exist if you know the language. So you need to have a B2 level qualification, B2 level on a CEFR scale. This is where you measure languages. Now, if you can give the GOETH exam for German, that's where you go and study. But remember, you need to go and double check the criteria before you do this. And in case somebody's telling you it's a free education, go and do and understand if it's a university that's recognized or not, and particularly for careers like medicine. Anisha, do you want to cover Australia and New Zealand?
sure. So, students, Australia is a very simple process. They do not require a lot of extracurriculars or co-curriculars. It is highly, I mean, it's only on the basis of your academic scores. So, if you're getting good academic scores, throughout 10th, 11th, I think you're good to go with your applications. There is no certain portal or there is no specified portal for Australian applications. Let's say you're applying to any particular university, you have to directly go to the university's website and apply through there. They do not really require a lot of extracurricular or co-curricular activities that have to be submitted or written in your application. Some applications would require you to write, or some colleges would require you to write certain essays, but that's not going to be a lot of work. It's a very direct and a simple application to all the universities. Also, remember that Australia, yes, there are a lot of options, or let's say opportunities for scholarships there, but that's only and only on the basis of your academic. So let's say on the basis of your merit. So you will directly be awarded scholarships there. Is no certain exams as such. You would be required to give IELTS for any country that you're looking at. So please remember, IELTS is something that is mandatory for all the countries that we're talking about here today. Apart from that, yes, if you're looking at medicine, then you will have a UCAT, BMAT, or ISAT. That these are the exams that you are required to give for medicine. Um, that's all for Australia. There is nothing as much detailed for any other country as much as it is for, let's say, the other countries like we discussed about the US, Canada process. But Australia, very simple and very direct procedure. Yeah. Do you have anything else,
No, so
Abhishek?
just want to add one particular thing again. I think you've covered it as well either way, but just want to highlight the fact that if you're looking at medicine, students, please make sure we don't want to stress on this because this is a very different domain altogether. Please reach out. Medicine is rather much easier in Australia than UK, etc. But it's still a complicated process, and we need to sit and understand your requirements to be able to recommend something, right? So don't apply to random universities before doing all your recce. Lastly, I want to come to Singapore. Singapore is a very popular destination. What you require is very, very, very high academic scores. If you're looking at schools like NUS, NTU, the best in the world for engineering, technology, economics, everything they teach, If you're looking at business, you can look at Singapore Management University. There's LaSalle for design, but academic stays at the forefront of applications in Singapore. So if you're not getting the higher 90s, not getting the best possible scores, that can become a very tricky thing. So please remember, when you're making the shortlist or decision to apply to Singapore, you know this. IELTS is acceptable there as well. Certain schools will accept your SCT scores too. Now, please listen to the next two things I say very carefully. I'm applying for engineering at NUS or NTU. If you have your JE scores or ranks, please submit. They will appreciate it. They mention it the same way. We will appreciate people submitting it. NEET, they accept exam like UCAT, etc., which are taken in the UK as well. But if you have a NEET score too, you can submit that as well. Just submit it because they know it's a difficult paper, so they will give you the respect and regard. Other than this, Singapore offers full aid as well in forms of government bonds or scholarships. So what really happens is sign a contract with the government that after you gradually stay in the country for these many years, mostly it's 3, work here, give back to the community and economy, and that's what is important, right? Dina, you can circle back to the team. We can block a session for you. Ritik can share the details for that, right? We are more than happy to take that up. Other than that, the Hong Kong is a popular country as well. In the middle, it lost its shine because of pandemic and other possible reasons, but it's gaining popularity. If you are an Indian student applying and getting above a 97%, the 5 major universities give you full scholarship. City University of Hong Kong, HKUST are the major ones. So please keep those options handy as well. Those of you asking about Scandinavian countries as a whole, I'll answer this very quickly. So if you're looking at Norway or you're looking at Denmark, all these countries, majority of courses are not in English. But considering the popularity and demand for international kids, they are starting a few programs like Stockholm School of Economics, possibly one of the best schools for eco in the world, has started a program, English speaking program, because they want to encourage students to come in. But these countries, because people don't learn English at all because they are limited population and they are very happy with it. So English is not the first language for most people. So if you want to go there, I rather look at learning languages before. Students, please remember, if somebody else is coming to India, we also expect them to know the language. It's a very simple methodology. There's nothing wrong with it. And I would rather encourage you to learn languages for your own sake. It gives you opportunities. One more country to cover is Dubai very quickly because a lot of Indian kids might be looking at Dubai. Now, please remember, Dubai doesn't have too many of its own colleges, except American University of Dubai or a couple of other schools. It's a satellite campus country. What it means is a lot of Indian universities have opened their campuses, the international branches. Universities like UK universities have one building, but which is more like a satellite campus. They exist, but they don't. Few universities have built brilliant campuses like NYU Abu Dhabi is very popular. I met a kid yesterday, in fact, in Indore from NYU Abu Dhabi, and I was very impressed the way he was describing the school. So you can consider all the international campuses, be it UK, US, who have a campus in Dubai, the process stays the same. You have to apply the same way Anisha and I have explained. For Indian universities there, you can just reach out to the university website directly and look at their requirements. Some of them might require an exam, like the Indian counterpart, some of them might not. But do the research. But it's rather easier to get into the international campuses in Dubai than original university, let's be very, very honest, right? Uh, which university are we talking about, Jannat? Let us know. We quickly want to cover India as well to give you an idea. And of course, we can address your queries in the last 5, 7 minutes. Anisha, I want to start with Ashoka.
Sure. So students, when we're looking at Indian universities, especially the liberal arts universities, there are a few that are of course there. Um, to start with a few, to name a few, it's Ashoka, Flame, Kriya, we have NMIMS, we have Christ, Symbiosis, Shiv Nadar, Azim Premji, Ahmedabad University, and so on, right? The process for Ashoka is holistic, where we look at, the university certainly looks at your extracurriculars, your co-curriculars, your internships, whether it is any volunteering or community service, any particular project that you've done, right? So Ashoka as a university, they offer some really good courses where you can choose your major and minor combinations. Apart from that, I think what they also look at is the kind of essays that you're writing right now. Always remember that this year they've of course changed the essay topics, and the essay is not something that you can just randomly write and submit, right? They also want to understand what is your thought process and who you are as an individual, what is it that you want to convey to the university. Apart from that, I think this time they have two essay questions that they've mentioned. And there are there is a section which is non-academic engagement, where you have to mention three activities. Now, those activities could be extracurricular, co-curricular, it could be an internship, it could be any volunteering community service that you've done, or anything else that you've participated in over the few years. Apart from that, in the same section, they also ask you to write down 3 or 5 books that you have read. Now, the logic behind asking the books is also that they want to understand that what kind of information or what kind of content do you consume on a regular basis, right? They want to understand that what kind of books do you read, what is your thinking process like, what is it that interests you a lot. Apart from that, they also ask you any one book out of the 5 or 3 books that you've mentioned, which is that one book that you would like to recommend others to read, right? So that's only 50 words. So always remember that you have to follow the word limit that's already suggested in the application. Apart from that, there is a section for letter of recommendation, which you can ask from either your school teacher, subject teacher, your school principal, or anybody else from the school, right? Now, the letter of recommendation is also going to be an important part of your application. It's not compulsory. However, if you have a letter of recommendation, it's always a good idea to submit that. And of course, you're supposed to mention your grades throughout class 10th, 11th, and class 12th predicted. Now, if you have your predicted scores from your school, well and good. If you do not have them, you can also write down self-predicted scores in the Ashoka application, right? Apart from that, after you complete your Ashoka application and submit it, there is something also called as the Ashoka aptitude test, which is then and in Ashoka, since it's highly competitive, you will only be required to write the assessment if you clear the you will of course submit the application and give the assessment. After that, if you clear these 2 rounds of your entire application, then you will be called for an interview. The interview process can range from it can always differ from each student. Some students interview can go on for like an hour, 40 minutes to 1 hour, and some of them can even finish it in 20 to 30 minutes, right? Now, it also depends on how you're taking forward your interview. The kind of questions that they ask is can be very conversational, where they're just asking you questions related to what you've written in your application, or it could be as simple as any extracurricular that you mentioned in the beginning of your introduction, and they can go on and talk about that, right? So the interview process is something that's of course a very competitive and difficult for Ashoka. Over the few years, that's what we've been seeing for a lot of students. Do not apply to Ashoka if you feel that you will not be able to handle the rigor. The kind of rigor that's there is very different and difficult for a lot of students. Also, remember that your academic scores have to be like on top, and some great academic scores in order to apply to Ashoka. We would always recommend that you sit. Also, the round one have has already passed by. A lot of students have also received their interview invites for the coming week. So you still have a few more rounds to go, but we would suggest that you apply as soon as possible. Also, depending on the kind of preparation you have for the entrance exam that you will be appearing for, right? So one pro tip, I think we would always recommend students to first look at the sample paper that's there on the website.
Hmm.
Practice it once and see how is it for you, whether you're able to manage it or not. And if not, then please, we would request that you go on search online for some sample papers and other kind of material that is available online, or other test prep companies that already have these resources and material. And it's better that you start preparing for these already.
Uh,
Um, do you have
One,
anything else?
yeah,
Yeah.
Anisha, I'll just quickly add to the thank you for explaining. I think the process Anisha mentioned goes for all the major private schools. I've written the names as well. Three things that you have to remember. In India, you can apply to colleges on three categories. One is purely based on your merit, that's board merit, but that's a very small chunk of universities. Second is entrance exams. A lot of universities have entrance exams. If I'm in 12th, if not started, you have to reconsider which universities can you actually crack. Third is your profile-based admissions. So Anisha has spoken about the major profile-based admission that are going on: Ashoka, Flame, OP Jindal, Azim Premji, Shivnagar, Plaksha, and the likes, Mahindra for that matter. But in case you're not too certain, first understand which one can you apply to. Also, a lot of these universities will shut down admissions before boards. Some of them will have two cycles, one before boards and one after as well. So you have to be very smart about this. How do you categorize this? Don't ask what is the best university. Tell us what do you want to do. So, for example, you mentioned Vivek. I do have no idea. What do you want to study, right? If I want to pursue journalism, observe the best school in the world is University of Amsterdam or a Southern California. But again, what's your career goal? Students, one thing I want to talk about before we close is a lot of you have asked questions, gives us a good insight that we are not certain. It's okay, but you have to understand that when you apply to colleges, you need to have certain clarity that is that university going to support my career. Let's say I want to apply for finance in India. I'll rather go to a university in Mumbai or Ahmedabad or Bangalore today than apply to a random city because I might not be able to land a job or internships without networking or interning. Use your LinkedIn as the best possible tool. It will be great if you can go on LinkedIn and be like, okay, these are the people who are studying there. What have they done? These are the schools. What is really happening here? What kind of opportunities kids are getting? And you can actually get in touch with us on LinkedIn. Very easy for us. Mindler team is very, very active there. We are more than happy to reply to and support you there as well. But make sure you're diligent in the approach. That's majorly what we want to cover today. Any questions you have, we can take it up in the next 5 odd minutes. Okay, so very quickly, Arif, sorry, I missed that. So early action is something, so you apply early to universities to show that, listen, I'm interested in it and this is the preferred choice. But in early decision, you are committing to it. As in, if you get in, you have to back out from other schools and go. आप वो decline नहीं कर सकते. Until unless you don't get the required aid and they have said that we won't give it, there's no way you can. It's a legally binding contract. And if you don't go, that can have implications for you, right? And that can also bring a bad name to your school and they can blacklist you, your school and you as well if you break the contract. Doing business school is decent, Shivani. There are better schools in India. Until unless you have a reason to stay in Dehradun, I would recommend better options. Also, I'll also consider UPES as a good school for undergrad. Don't go for integrate program if you're not very certain. So, any other questions we can address, you can ask Anisha, and I'll be happy to. Germany does have Mansi good universities, but most of them will require you to have German. That's the main criteria. You can, Hassan. In fact, a lot of universities might do away with the entrance exam requirement if you are a foreigner. They might give you from an NRI quota, allow that. For Mansi, for Mumbai, it's St. Xavier's will be the first name, NMIMS will be second, and Mumbai University will be third. Okay, so Janat, Anisha had elaborated this in detail. So you need to look at the what activities you're good at and interested in. No, don't pick up random activities based on what others are doing. Try and prove that what you're good at and what you want to put across. That's more important for a university. Dishika, you have University of California as a whole, you have NYU, you have University of Maryland, Michigan, you have Claremont McKenna, you have Anisha, any other schools of psychology?
I think these are the best ones for now. Also, we would want to see how your
Of
profile
course,
is
of
like
course.
depending on your extracurriculars, your grades. All of these things will matter when we're looking at the university list.
I really hope you're cracking a NYU Stern, yeah. If you can do that, nothing like it. But yeah, NYU Stern, Columbia, either or, it's a particular preference and how much money you want to shell. That's very important, right? Where, Neha, where? Again, Sakshi, where? India, you're looking at? Eco-honors, of course, Delhi University, LSR, SRCC, LSR, St. Stephen's, Ashoka, NMIMS in Bombay, St. Xavier's. These are the best names to consider. Harish, you can look at Plaksha will be number one on my list, Mahindra number two. I can look at Ashoka because fintech, every school won't offer, so you can focus on eco or finance as well. NMIMS eco finance program can let you there, but Plaksha will be number one. Pooja, there's no exam in particular. I mean, SATs is one. You can look at APs, but students, what you're asking is a very subjective question. If till Anisha and I don't know your profile, we can't recommend you to take up exams. Uh, if I'm not wrong, Arif, you're talking about if BA here means Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and BBA is the same thing. There's no difference. It's the second one is just an honors program which is valued higher. So it also depends on the university you apply to, very importantly. Students, you can connect with us on LinkedIn, reach out to us. I'm happy to put down my ID as well for you to consider, and you can just drop us a mail. There you go. But please mention which school are you from very clearly in the message that this is the school you're from and this is the support you require. So we'll try and ensure we get in touch sooner. And of course, you can reach out at hello@mani.com. Dina, your question I have already mentioned that actually is not specific for me to answer. It's still vague for me to point a finger and answer it for you. Hassan, that question makes no sense to me. That will be a couple of drop years. You've written the answer. If you've dropped not applying 23, that's one drop. There's two drops, no, Anisha?
Yes, yes.
Great. I think we've answered most questions. We're very, very glad that all of you joined. I put my email ID. I'm just sharing it again once more. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. Any queries, you can post it on email as well. Yeah, anyone has a last question, anything else we can address? Happy to do that. I know, students, there's a lot of information to be covered. Again, Drishti, we have no idea what your profile is, what you want to study. That's very important for us to know. Nandini, which country are you applying to? Drishti, online courses, certifications, internships, virtual internship programs that immerse or Forage, either of them can work well. You can actually reach out to a finance company and say, I want to come and shadow you. So multiple things can be done. LinkedIn, Insta can work best, but it's more about if you are tapping in the right category and people are recognizing the work. Try and connect with people who are already doing well, take advice from them or collaborate with them to grow. That'll be a good start. It absolutely is, Arif. Drishti, we have kids interning in class 9, so absolutely that's fine. Great students, I think we've tried to address most of them, put our email IDs as well. Thank you so much. Uh, Okay, Sakshi, for hotel management, you're looking at IHMs. You have Oberoi Step, you have Manipal, the Welcome Group, Taj or Aurangabad. If you go to the Mindler portal, you go to the university section, you can find this list available. But Oberoi Step will be number one, hands down in the country. All the countries are available, Nandini. It's not about availability, it's about are you eligible at this point of time. I would rather recommend you reach out on a mail and we can discuss this over a session. It'll be a detailed process. All the universities you can go ahead and study commerce. I think maths just gives you an advantage. That's majorly it. Okay, great, done. So thank you so much. Have a great Sunday and good luck. Thank you so much, Anisha. Great. Ritik, we should be able to
Thank
close
you,
now.
Vishnu.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you, everybody, for joining us
Thank you so
today.
much, everyone.